Hello YouTube and welcome to another GV anime review. This week with the first fall 2016 review being of Bungou Stray Dogs. Bungou Stray Dogs was an anime that aired in two pieces. One in spring 2016 and then the second part in the past fall season. Now, if you followed my anime week at the end of last year, then you already know that I had some problems with this anime. So let's dive deeper into that. The story of Bungou Stray Dogs centers around a boy named Atsushi Nakajima. His life is everything but pretty. He is an orphan, but he got kicked out of the orphanage and he was told that he's useless and that he would do the world a huge favor by just dying. And on top of that, Atsushi has been having these weird experiences with a large white tiger. So Atsushi is basically waiting to die until one day a man named Osamu Dazai recruits him for the Armed Detective Bureau. A group of detectives who all possess supernatural powers and who fight a crime syndicate called the Port Mafia. My first positive point is the most well-known feature of Bungou Stray Dogs, being that all the characters in this anime are named after famous writers and poets of the 20th century. Names like Edogawa Rampo, Edgar Allan Poe and Fyodor Dostoevsky ring a bell with most people. And there's more to this than just the names of the characters. The personalities of the characters are based on the true personalities of their inspirations. Like Dazai in the anime wants to commit suicide all the time, just like his inspiration, the early 20th century writer Osamu Dazai. And still it's not over, there's more, since the supernatural ability of each character is named after the most famous publication of said writer. The most famous novel written by Herman Melville is Moby Dick, and that's then also his ability. So there must have gone a lot of research into this anime and into the development of its characters. Now for my other positive points, I have to skip the first 3/4 of the first season. We'll talk about that later on. But the final arc of the first season was when this anime finally became interesting to me. It was such an improvement. Finally, the story was taking a darker path, which was what I expected from this anime. The introduction of Kyoka triggered a whole new series of events, because there, for the first time in this anime, I felt that Atsushi was evolving. For the first time, he had something to live for, someone to care about, since it's not literally mentioned but the hints are real that Atsushi is in love with Kyoka. And this all opened up a whole new storyline, which was a major improvement to the first part of the anime. And my final positive point is connected to the previous one, being the second season or second part of this anime. Luckily, the creators decided to extend the darker sphere of the end of part 1 into part 2. The starting arc of part 2 about Dazai's past immediately set a way more serious tone. Finally, I was getting what I was expecting from the start, a dark, serious, seinen anime. And that feeling was extended into the rest of part 2, which saved this entire anime. Bungou Stray Dogs was saved by its second part, since after 3/4 of the first part, I had given up all hopes for this series. The first part was so bad and annoying, especially the comedy was childish and stupid, and the whole of it was the exact opposite of what I expected. As I said, I expected a dark and serious seinen anime, but instead I got an annoying and simply boring comedy shonen anime. Also, some of the characters that were showcased were simply superfluous. They came into the anime, were showcased for 1 or 2 episodes and then vanished, never to have a major role again in this anime. So there were too many characters and too little development for them. Now, although the second part was way better than the first part, I do have some remarks here as well. First remark is that I found that Kunikida was abandoned in this second part. Kunikida was one of the three main characters of the first part, together with Atsushi and Dazai. But in this second part, he has a quiet background role, which I found to be a shame. And my final negative point is that I found that Akutagawa needed more development and background. In the first part of Bungou Stray Dogs, he is profiled as the main antagonist of this anime. But overall, I want to know more about him. I believe that his past is only touched upon very briefly. But I'm really interested to see his story, his past. How was his relationship with his father, and what made him into the cold and dark person that he is today? Now, this could be solved by a second season or a third part, if you will. And I believe that a second season might happen one day. The final episode definitely hints towards another season, with the introduction of a new villain and the words "see ya" at the very end. So Studio Bones definitely has the material and the budget to make a second season. And if it continues like the second part of the first season, then I would like to see that. So as a conclusion, luckily there was the second part. Otherwise this would have ended up in my top 5 worst animes of 2016. If I would rate the parts separately, I would rate the first 3/4 of the anime at a 2.5-ish score, because it was really bad. The rest, however, I would definitely give that a 4-star rating, with the hopes of a second season. So overall, I'm going to rate Bungou Stray Dogs at 3.5 out of 5 stars. Do I recommend watching this anime? Yes, I still do. Just fight your way through the first 8 or 9 episodes and you'll get a fairly interesting story, especially for seinen fans. As my recommendation, I will say Trickster, an anime that is still running today. The main concept of Trickster is exactly the same as the one from Bungou Stray Dogs, being a boy who doesn't really want to live anymore, with a supernatural power, who joins a detective bureau filled with crazy people. And with that, I conclude my review of Bungou Stray Dogs. As usual, you can find a full list of all my animes and reviews over at Anime Planet. As usual, I will put a link in the description box down below. Now, if you want me to review a particular anime from this list, please leave it in the comments. Also, if you have a recommendation for me, put it in the comments as well. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, visit me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and subscribe to this channel for more reviews in the future. Then I will say arigatou gozaimasu and I will see you all in the next video.